everyone, welcome to the Basketball and Beer Podcast, where we talk NBA basketball, drink craft beer, with a special focus on the Chicago Bulls because that's my team. I'm Brennan O'Connor, and today we're going to be discussing surprise teams of the NBA so far. We're about 6-7 games in for some teams, so we're going to discuss who's doing better than expected, who's doing worse than expected. Bulls topics, we'll talk about their slow start, not panicking quite yet. It's not quite time. An emerging leader for the Chicago Bulls, as well as talking about if it's going to be time's up for Bulls coaching staff and management, or if they'll see extended time to turn things around despite the Bulls' slow start. Again, I'm Brennan O'Connor. Make sure to hit subscribe if you like talking NBA basketball and paying attention to NBA podcasts. So today I will be drinking Lagunitas Cappuccino Stout. It's alcohol percentage 9.1%. This is about 22 ounces. If you're watching on YouTube, there you go, check it out. Lagunitas has a lot of good stuff, but if you've paid attention to my podcast, you know I really like stouts, and this is one of my favorites. So I'm going to crack that open before we get started. Good stuff. All right, so to start out with NBA topics, I wanted to talk about some surprise teams so far. Far and away, the number one surprising team to me so far has been the Miami Heat, and that's in a very good way if you're a Miami Heat basketball fan. As a Chicago guy, I got to know Jimmy Butler's game very well. He is a hard-nosed, tough player, really one of the rare guys who started off as a role player and became a superstar just through his pure work ethic. He had the tools, but really what got him to the place where he is how hard he works, the time he puts in the off season, the way he pushes himself, and his mentality. As I've discussed before, the Chicago Bulls have kind of struggled with playing hard and wanting it more than the other team. Jimmy Butler is a guy that you never have to worry about. You may have to worry about his attitude in terms of some guys see him as a bit of a diva and, might ruffle some feathers in the locker room. I think it's any team he shows up on is going to be a little bit of a worry, but with the Miami Heat, that has not been the case. His work ethic is really rubbing off on the rest of this young team that's surrounding him. I guess there's not really a better fit. I did not expect much out of this Miami Heat squad, but to start the season, they're 5-1. And what's most impressive is Jimmy's averaging 15, 7, and 7, which is, good numbers, but it's not like he's putting up 25 a game. He's got a supporting cast that is playing amazing, and they're being well coached, and a number of guys on that team are contributing to winning basketball. Just to run through a few stats of these guys, Tyler Harrow is averaging 16, 6, and 3. Kendrick Nunn, another rookie who's been maybe the surprise of the season so far, he's averaging 20, 2, and 3. He's putting up crazy scoring numbers. Jimmy Butler said that Kendrick Nunn has a lot of him in him, which kind of shows Jimmy's ego, but he means it as a compliment. He sees another guy who wants to win as bad as he does, and he likes playing with those guys. Now, I mentioned Jimmy and two rookies, but they still got Goran Dragic, 16, 3, and 4. Justice Winslow, 15, 9, and 6. And then you got Bam, 14, 9, and 5. So just right there, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys on the team that are averaging 14 points or better, and a lot of those guys are getting some assist and rebounding numbers that are nice as well. So that's what every team strives for. If you can't have the superstar duo, you want a squad like the Heat where they're sharing the ball, there's surprisingly no egos, at least not to this point, and they're all just about winning, and they're doing an amazing job. So props to the Miami Heat. If you're a fan, I hope they keep it up. Next surprise team in the NBA, the Phoenix Suns. I got to admit, just on one of my last podcasts, I mentioned with DeAndre Ayton going down, I expected the Suns to be back in the lottery. Now, we're only 6 games into the season, so we'll see what happens and if they can keep it up. But right now, they're 5-2. Devin Booker, as expected, 26 points a game, 4 rebounds, 5 assists. What's really making the difference for them is Ricky Rubio. He's bringing that veteran presence, averaging 13.7 boards, 9 assists, and is really just helping that team play the basketball the right way. Larry Brown, the old coach of the Sixers and Pistons, always preached play the right way. And that's what Rubio is helping the Phoenix Suns do, is just make the right plays, play at the right pace, share the ball, hit the right man. And then Aaron Baines has been a solid contributor for them as well. So when they get Ayton back in 25 games, if they keep playing well, we know Ayton's going to beast when he gets back. And we'll see, do the Suns have a shot at the playoffs? Will they be in the lottery or will they be in the playoffs? If you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. If you're listening on my podcast, go ahead, leave a comment. Playoffs or lottery for the Phoenix Suns. And the last surprise team, the Rockets. They're 4-3, and they've been struggling defensively. There's been a number of games so far where they've given up 40-point quarters. So people are a little bit worried about the Rockets. They're not off to an amazing start like people were expecting with the James Harden and Westbrook duo. Harden's doing Harden. He's 37 points, 5 boards, 7 assists, as expected. Westbrook, 21, 10, and 9. So he's right there with his almost averaging a triple-double per usual for him. And then Clint Capella, he's averaging 13 and 9. Pretty standard what he does, playing good defense. But the Rockets as a team are really struggling to play defense. So they're going to be one of the top teams. They're not going to miss the playoffs. There's been people saying they might. They're not going to miss the playoffs. They'll get in there. They might not be the top 4 team, but they're going to be in the playoffs. They'll be fine. They're going to outscore most teams that they play, but they're not going to win a championship if they can't play defense, and that's what it's going to come down to. All right, so that's our NBA topics for the day. Going to dive into a little bit of Chicago Bulls news. So we're off to a slow start. There was a lot of optimism going into this season. I'm a very optimistic guy, and I was hoping for the playoffs. I'm still hoping we can turn this around, but if I had to put money on it, my money's not on the Bulls making the playoffs, unfortunately. Just the way they started, they're 2-5, and if they were playing top teams, then maybe you could understand that. Despite playing on the road, they've played against some really not very talented teams, and they're 2-5. So very disappointing start to the season. It is early, but as we've said, this comes down to effort. In the NBA, there's a lot of talent, obviously. Many nights it comes down to who's playing harder, who's giving more effort, making defensive rotations, crashing the boards. And if one team's not doing that, as the Bulls have not been, you're going to lose, especially when you're not that much talented, compared to the other team. If you're LeBron and AD, you might get away with coasting and then turning it on. Chicago Bulls can't afford to do that. Interesting enough, we're playing the Lakers tonight. It's halftime right now. I hit pause on Hulu because that's where I'm watching it, and decided to do this podcast real quick because my kids are sleeping, my wife's out at work, so I got to fit these podcasts in when I can. And right now at halftime, Bulls are up 65-48. Why? Because they're playing hard. They're playing like they give a shit. And LeBron and AD and the Lakers, they're on a 5-game winning streak, probably expected to walk in and play the 2-5 Chicago Bulls and blow them out by 20. We'll see what happens in the second half, but can the Bulls maintain the level of effort going into the third quarter and through the fourth. We're up big. We're hitting our shots. Kobe White finally is being aggressive again. He had a hot start, slowed down quite a bit. You could tell his confidence was a little bit shook, but I think he had 16 points so far at halftime against the Lakers. So I want to see him continue to be aggressive. He's one of those guys where sometimes you got guys on the team where you let them get away with a couple bad shots. To me, Kobe's one of those guys. I want to see him shooting the ball and being aggressive. A good reminder for us Bulls fans, as disappointing as this season has been so far, don't panic just yet. This is a completely new team from last year. We're incorporating Kobe White, a rookie. We're incorporating Thad, Sato, Otto Porter Jr. He only had a small number of games with the Bulls last year. So we got a new squad. It's going to take a little time for them to gel. Don't forget the Miami Heat super team of some years back when you had D. Wade, Chris Bosh, and LeBron James. They struggled. They were like 7-8 or 8-9 when everyone expected them to go 82-0. Took them some time to figure it out, and I think the Bulls will too. Time will tell. Good news for the Bulls, there's a player on the team that is emerging as a leader, and that player, if you haven't guessed already, is Wendell Carter Jr. Not only is he playing well, he's averaging around 16 points, 10 boards. His attitude is what's making him a leader. Not only is he playing hard and being an example to the other players of the type of effort you got to give, but he's saying the right things too. He's saying we're talking about being a playoff team. We can't come out and play the way we've been playing. That it just doesn't work like that. I love to hear a young player like that say those sort of things and be an example. He's doing a fantastic job, and the rest of the team better, follow his lead, because he's a natural leader and he's showing that through his play, his actions, and his words. So I hope he keeps that up. Lowry and Zach. So we'll see how this season goes and if we can turn things around. I'm not all about jumping on trade one of them right now. I think it's the wrong time because their value is not going to be that high right now. But it's something that we're going to have to consider down the line if we're showing to be like a good team, but, not getting over the hump, maybe the 8th playoff seed, and we're sticking around that spot for a year or two. Maybe don't even let it get there. I foresee that we're probably going to have to trade either Zach or Lowry. I just don't see the fit working long term. I was hopeful that I would, but they're two guys that can, fill up the stat sheet scoring-wise, but haven't seen great defense from either of them, haven't seen consistency from Lowry, and haven't seen consistency from Zach this year either. So I just don't know what the fit's going to be for the two of them, and we might have to look, once they're back to, playing well, seeing what's out there and maybe what we need to do to shake up our team a little bit, because sometimes you can have two talented guys and it just comes down to the team fit. And sometimes you got to consider trading one of your good guys to get a better fit. Look at the Miami Heat. A lot of changes there, and it's a squad that just fits. So we'll see what happens, but it's something we might have to consider down the line. Last topic for the Chicago Bulls, will Boylen last? Will GarPax last? I want to give Boylen a little time. A lot of people are pointing the finger at him, and I get it. He mentioned the Bulls need to play harder, and a lot of people thought he was throwing his guys under the bus, but I think he was just being honest. The players have to play harder. It's the 100% truth. And it seems like Boylen's turned things around in terms of his relationship with players. Hopefully that doesn't damage it. Haven't been the happiest with his substitution rotations. I've noticed at times where it feels like he keeps maybe somebody who's kind of hot out of the game a little bit too long. So I think, this is his second season as a head coach. He's going to have some growing pains as well. Not a huge Boylen fan, but I'm not ready to not throw him out the door just yet. Let's see if he can turn it around. Let's give him this season, see how things go. As far as Gar Forman and John Paxson, if they don't get the Bulls fighting for the 8th seed in the playoffs at least, there needs to be massive consideration for letting them go. His relationship with the Reinsdorf family makes it seem like that might not happen. They've got a lot of leeway. But at some point, we've given them a lot of time. Bulls have been struggling for forever. Chicago fans deserve a competing playoff basketball team. And if we can't even be competing for it this year, we largely need to consider firing those guys. Bulls fans have been calling for it for the last few years. Hasn't happened yet, but I think even the Bulls ownership at this point has to be on the verge of knowing they got to let them go and go in a new direction if we can't even compete for the playoffs this year. So that's it for the podcast today. I appreciate you listening. Take a quick moment, take a deep breath, and just be grateful for whatever you have in your life to be grateful for. Maybe it's your family or your home. It could be anything, but just take a moment for you and consider what or who you're grateful for. It's important to do that on a regular basis. Not only will it improve your mood, but it just spreads goodness into the world. I'm a meditation teacher. I want people to be happy. So after talking a little basketball, I just like to take a moment, take a deep breath, be present, and be grateful. Thank you. And basketball, beer is good, basketball is great, but what really counts is treating people right. Be kind, be you, and don't forget, hit subscribe so we can keep talking basketball. I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.